Do you enjoy sports, wrestling, and entertainment? How about a podcast filled with laughter and candid banter? If that's the case, I've got the perfect podcast for you to check out. It's called The Wicked K's Podcast, and the hosts of the show are longtime best friends that went to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting together and now want to bring their love of entertaining to an audience on a podcast platform. With over 50 episodes recorded already, they don't plan on going anywhere. I'm sure you're wondering what to expect. You will hear whimsical conversations about the sports and wrestling world, wild games and segments that will give you a good belly laugh, but most importantly, you'll hear two New England boys that want you to be a part of their world. If all that interests you, you can visit any podcast platform and search The Wicked K's Podcast. That's The Wicked K's Podcast, or visit thewickedks.com. Have fun listening. As they say on the show, let's get wicked.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is the one that everybody wants, me. Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my honor. You're going to acknowledge me.
Oh, yes, everybody. We are back. It's Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. I am back to talk wrestling, sober up a little after my trip to Florida, and of course, get ready for WrestleMania 39, which is just, a couple weeks away. Insane how fast this all comes and then goes. And on a side note, if anybody wants to visit Clearwater, Florida during spring break and you don't like crowds, yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. I'll say it was fun for those that care. I know this isn't anything but a wrestling podcast. However, my buddies and I went, to get away from the wife and the kids. For all three of us who have all wives and kids, get away from for any amount of time is always a challenge. You have to get I don't say permission. We're not whipped, but to really just kind of work out the details, right? Like, I let my wife go wherever she wants. Do it, whatever. You need the time alone with your girls, in her case, the guys in my case. And so anyway, to get that time away with the boys is any of you out there know that have ventured into, having kids, that time that you just took advantage of in your 20s and just took for granted, really, that stuff is gold now, isn't it? It just feels like a different life. And coming back from 80 degrees to 30 degrees and snow, and it's jarring. So my head is on a swivel, and I return to work tomorrow, my big boy job. So my other job, which I love much more, is this, and we're going to get into wrestling in just a minute. It's now going to be full WrestleMania from here on out. The matches have been pretty much set, other than one, it looks like, and really two, from what I understand. The women's tag team fatal four-way match is the obligatory teams that come out of nowhere to make a mirage of a tag team division for the women are created every year, and this year is no different. But outside of the teams that I think we only have one out of the four teams identified for the women, tag teams, that is. The other match that has not become official but is going to be, it's going to happen, is Dominic versus Rey, which is becoming entertaining. And, I would say that it has, while I'm getting annoyed that they just need to get to this, it seems as if they're going to wait until the last second here. And what I mean by that is maybe the day before, the night before. You've heard this on my podcast and others. I'm not certainly the original here when it comes to this idea, but the idea that Dominic Mysterio could be interfering with the sanctity of the Hall of Fame is possible. I actually wouldn't do it, though. The reason is because no wrestling storyline, in my mind, should start at the Hall of Fame. Or go, not even start, but should continue or start or end at the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame is a time for just celebration and reflection about the business and things. For it to be muddied with the waters of actual storyline, I think takes away from what the meaning of this event is. Even if it is to get to Dominic and Rey, and I won't hate it. It'll be interesting to see, but it will forever stain what the meaning of the Hall of Fame is. And I'm saying this, it sounds super negative. I'm all for the match, and I love the story that they've told so far with Dominic and all that. But I think that the Hall of Fame should be left alone. I know it is about the wrestlers and the stories and all that, and all the what the impact of that person has made on the business, him or her. I understand that. I think it should be all about that. But I don't think it should include storylines. So if they do indeed have Dominic do something wild at the Hall of Fame induction, interrupt his speech, attack his dad at the Hall of Fame, attack him in front of, his wife and Aaliyah and all that. Like, I understand why, but I just wouldn't do it simply for the respect of what that event means. But I'm not in charge, and we will see. Anyway, this week we did get a little bit more of Brock Omos, although neither was live in the arena. They did a video package, but really, what are you going to do? The promos between those two wouldn't be that good. MVP's the only one that has any, well, not any. Brock has an okay promo ability, has never shown really good ever, and that's amazing to say that Brock Lesnar, one of the biggest stars in pro wrestling ever, is not that good on the mic. That tells you that you can still succeed to an insane level if you're a freak of nature, and Brock Lesnar certainly is that. But I don't mind them both taking a week off here to maybe come back next week. I think that was it a weigh-in next week, I believe they advertised, and we've seen these before. But honestly, what story is there to tell beyond Omos' size? That's it. It's the only card to play. It's a card that I don't hate. It's a card we expected. And the more I think about it, it's probably the better match than Brock and Bray. I really believe that, because Brock and Bray, I think with the hocus pocus of Brock Lesnar or Bray Wyatt, it would not go over well with Brock Lesnar's character. It's oil and water, my friends. On paper, the names, of course, the name is Bray Wyatt's bigger than Omos. Absolutely. And have people been fantasizing about that matchup for a long time? Yes. Was it teased at Roadblock in, 2015 or whatever it was, when Dean Ambrose took on Triple H? I think that's what it was. Am I making that up? It was, I think, before WrestleMania 30 or 31, when we had Dean Ambrose versus Triple H for the WWE Championship, and Bray Wyatt came face to face when he was in the Wyatt family with Brock Lesnar, and he's the only one that escaped Brock, and they had a stare down. I'm fairly sure on that. I could be wrong. But anyway, sure, on paper, and we've been teased with it, but in execution, is it really the best match? Or would you be sacrificing Brock's character and his, what his character means and how we'd react to situations and the reality of things? I just, the more I think about it, I understand why they didn't do it, why Brock maybe vetoed it, whatever the case. So there's that. But moving on. The show opened with Kevin Owens on stage and made his way to the ring, and then Sami Zayn's music played, and both of them pointed to each other and said, "Yeah, I think the crowd likes you." And they both cheered. The pop for these two was really just, it was great to hear. And I know I didn't review SmackDown. I didn't do a weekend review this week for the first time in I don't know how many months or years. So I apologize for that. It would have been nearly impossible for me to do a weekend review this week, given the state of mind I was in. I'll just leave it at that, in Clearwater, Florida. So you wouldn't have wanted to hear that. And honestly, there was music, and it was a wild environment. So even if I could have coherently put sentences together, the background noise would have made it absolutely impossible. So I apologize for that. I know Anthony DeMarco and I didn't get together this week. Don't worry, guys. Over the next few weeks, things will get back to normal, especially with WrestleMania, guys. We're running on all cylinders here, I promise. But okay, back to Raw. We got Sami and Kevin in the ring. The embrace they had on SmackDown this past week was a massive pop. And without getting into a really detailed SmackDown review, I will say that the reunification of Kevin and Sammy was even better than I expected it to be, because I expected it to be just kind of ho-hum and, all right, well, the fans knew it was coming. Let's get there. But the fans really embraced this. And rightfully so. It was emotional and it's real. And, you know, Kevin wanting to really just have Sammy say this isn't about, you know, just teaming up. It's about friendship and all that. And Sammy told Kevin, I love you. And that's when you saw Kevin drive away. And he came to his senses, as Cole said, and eventually came back and helped Sammy. And there's the hug that we've been all waiting for, the hug it out chance. It's there. Here's what I hope doesn't happen, though. Somebody turns on somebody. Like if Kevin screws Sammy at WrestleMania, it's like, I really hope that they're not even discussing that. I mean, if they're talking about Kevin turning on Sammy, if that had never happened before, then that's fine. You know, I would say, okay, I could see where they would want to do this, or it's shocking, right? But we've seen it how many times? And I'm not putting it out there as a possibility, a real possibility. It's in the, I'd say like 2% chance range. But I wanted to just address it. I've heard a couple of other people talk about it. And if Kevin turns, I mean, come on. Like, we've been down this road. And they, you know, anyway, assuming that's not going to happen, and I don't think it will, the crowd love this, the embrace, the chemistry they have, the crowd reaction. It's like they improved both of their careers, became bigger stars, and then came back together. It was just such a great unification, and I'm more excited about this match than I thought it would be, even though I knew 4 or 5 months ago this was probably the match that was happening at WrestleMania. So, moving on. Jimmy told... hold on. The Usos came out pretty quickly, and they mocked Owens and Zayn, saying they're the type of family that cuts each other's throats. And Zayn said that that's a funny thing coming from Jay, whose biggest dream is to backstab Roman Reigns. I love how he's continuing to try to jab a wedge between Jay and Roman. This story's not over, guys, between Jay and Roman, no doubt. And then Jimmy told Zayn that he was the one living in a dream world, and Jimmy said Sammy was dreaming and looking at the WrestleMania sign, nothing's going to happen. But, of course, we all knew that the answer eventually was going to be yes. And Jay said they didn't have to wait till WrestleMania. They hit the ring. Jimmy pulled Owens outside. They had a brawl, which is kind of the theme over the last week or two, which at first I was annoyed by how many times they used the brawl and pull apart for different programs with Charlotte and Rhea. We had it with Kevin and Sami and the Usos. We got it with Seth Rollins and Logan Paul later in the show. Like, I understand the need for it because you don't want to give too much away. It's a WrestleMania match, but at the same time, you have to get them physical, right? So you can't just continue to just do the promo stuff, which is important. But when it gets to close to WrestleMania time, you know, I understand why they do it. I get it. I mean, where are they going to go from here? So it's just a lot of programs are at the same spot and they're ready to turn physical. So I turned my annoyance into acceptance and understanding of how many brawls and pull aparts we saw over the last week or two. But that said, the Usos, rather Kevin and Sammy got the best of the Usos in this exchange. And then at that same time, Roman, Heyman, and Solo Sikoa arrived backstage. And then we got Austin Theory and Montez Ford in a non-title match. The outcome, no surprise here. The match was fine. About 9 minutes of a match and a non-title match. The finish was Theory hitting Ford with a drop kick and an A-Town down. Clean victory. No hanky-panky. As expected and as it should have been, Theory got the victory. And then he said after the match that Ford didn't believe in him, and now he does. And John Cena says, you don't believe in me, but at WrestleMania you will. That's fine. And I think that Montez Ford in this showing didn't lose or gain anything. He's right now kind of in no man's land in that tag team division here. And eventually will be the breakout star of that team. There's no doubt about it. So I will say, though, the Street Profits post WrestleMania have some follow-up. There's got to be something coming from that. They're just kind of stale. They're ready for some kind of transformation. And I think a split is the answer. All right. Roman Reigns was then in his dressing room, and Paul Heyman and Solo stood behind him. The Usos came in, and Reigns says it wasn't the best start to the night, and it looked like they took a beating. Jimmy said they took a few shots, and Jimmy said nothing can hurt him or hit him harder than being torn from his brother and then having to answer for it like it was his fault. Jimmy told Reigns that he would never forgive Zayn for that. Jimmy said he and Jay got him at WrestleMania, and Reigns had everyone other than Jay leave the room. Jay slid closer to Reigns and looked down, holding in as they went to a break. That was an interesting part right there before we came back from the break, because Jimmy was saying that there's nothing worse than being torn away from his brother and then having to answer for it like it was his fault. And you're thinking, oh, he's calling out Roman, but then blames Sammy. So another little tease there. Reigns and Jay were then sitting next to each other after commercial, and then Reigns said he hadn't seen or heard from Jay, and he had to beg his brother for answers. Reigns said Jay was making decisions, and said in order to make decisions, you've got to be a part of the bloodline. And Jay said, I'm with you. I'm bloodline, Us. And then Reigns looked at Jay in the eye for a moment and said, I hope so. That's all I needed to hear. I'll see you around. Jay got up and left, but Reigns stopped him and told him that he loved him. And Jay stopped for a moment and left the room. Heyman returned and knelt by Reigns and asked if he found the answers he's looking for, and Reigns said yes. Very akin to Survivor Series before War Games, when Sami Zayn was questioned by Roman Reigns, and when Roman Reigns told everyone, including the Usos, that he was going to look Sami Zayn in the eye and get the answers he needed, he did, which was, obviously deception, jealousy. That's what he eventually told everyone he saw. And I think he did the same thing to Jay here. It looks like all is well, but it's not. And especially the part where Roman told Jay he loved him and Jay didn't return in kind. He just kind of stopped and walked away. He didn't also say he loved him. I think that's going to come back to bite him. All right. So again, really good tension that's continuing to build between Jay and Roman. That will eventually bust, which also makes you wonder about, does Cody even have a chance? If this is a story that they're clearly building till after WrestleMania, is a Jay Roman match without a championship the right way to go? I don't know. Maybe. But isn't it more interesting if Jay could become champion? That's a more interesting story. One of the many that if you keep Roman champion, you could tell. Where, as I've said before and I'll continue to say, you get Cody the belt, cool, great moment, big victory, streak ends, it's noteworthy, Twitter's abuzz. Okay, cool. Hey, here's a follow-up question. What's next? Then what? Okay, you get off after the shock and awe of it and the buzz about it wears away. Then what? See, there are many built-in storylines of Roman that have yet to be told that there's money in, and guaranteed money in. Whereas Cody Rhodes is somewhat of a new figure on this platform, on this stage, in this spot, in the main event. So, I don't know. To me, there's a better case to keep Roman champion outside of, shock and awe. Okay, well, sure, Cody's really good in the ring. But who's he working with? That's money, more interesting than Roman staying as champion. Got to look at this too, literally from a dollars and cents, not just, what's best for the storyline. Sometimes dollars and cents. And I'm looking at this through the lens of money for WWE, and there is still money, a lot of it, to be made from the Bloodline story, which really makes me hesitant to ever say the Bloodline splitting up until it feels like it's kind of fading away. And that doesn't feel the case right now. Like, people are still interested in every word Roman's saying, every word Jay is saying. So anyway, let's move on. Again, there's a lot more discussion to be had over this over the next couple weeks. Okay, let's see. We got Omos. He was in the building. This was not on Hulu. Beating Mustafa Ali in about a minute. And Ali told Omos that he believes in him. And with a smile on my face, Omos shoved Ali into the mat and hit him with the shoulder block. Ziggler was shown watching the match on a backstage monitor. And then Omos hit his finish for the victory. And then afterward, MVP delivered a brief in-ring promo and claimed that Brock will learn to fear Omos at WrestleMania. Isn't that the same narrative that Rhea Ripley's going with against Charlotte? Fear, you'll fear me. It's kind of weird. I don't know. And it's not a huge complaint, just interesting that it's the same exact narrative. Okay. But we got Logan Paul shown exiting his dressing room with a small entourage, and then The Miz showed up and tried to buddy up to Paul, and Paul just kind of brushed him off. And that's when we got a broadcast team hyping Bad Bunny hosting Backlash. I'm pretty sure it's no longer WrestleMania Backlash. It's just Backlash, which would make you hope that the SmackDown before WrestleMania isn't WrestleMania SmackDown. There's no such thing. It's one or the other. It's like calling the Friday night before the Rumble the Royal Rumble SmackDown. I understand it's marketing. I understand that that's what it is, right? Like, that's obviously what it is. They're trying to squeeze every last dollar out of their WrestleMania brand name, which is their biggest brand name, no doubt. But sometimes it gets a little egregious. Like, WrestleMania is a singular event. Okay, it's split into 2 nights, but it's a singular event. Yeah, you can't make SmackDown WrestleMania, and you can't make Backlash WrestleMania. There is no such thing. It's one or the other. If that's true, then why can't every pay-per-view coming off of a major one be a backlash of one, right? Like, or the SmackDown before that major event is the Survivor Series SmackDown. I don't know. I guess I'm reading too much into it, and some of you all don't care, but I think that's gone away this year. We'll find out. All right. So then Logan Paul made himself available here for the ImPaulsive TV podcast, and fans booed him. And he said he didn't have to do this. He said he fears that Paul, that is, or he hears fans boo him. They don't love him. He said his father and a kid who brought a sign for him were probably the only people in the building who loved him. And he said he doesn't care that fans don't see the talent standing in front of them, and he can do it all. He didn't invite any guests because he asked the crowd if he really thought that his celebrity friends would come to St. Louis and then mock the fans over losing the NFL Rams to LA. He said the St. Louis Rams and said, "Oh, wait, I mean the LA Rams." That was a good line. And then noted that with his match with Seth Rollins will be held on his birthday on WrestleMania Saturday, and that he and Seth could be friends, and Rollins had not started with him. The fans started the what stuff, and Logan Paul played along with it, and that's where Paul then began replaying and playing again the knocking out of Rollins from last week. And that's when we got the stupid emoji animation putting over Rollins' head. And that's when the mic was cut, and you knew that Seth was behind it. And he was in the production area. And Rollins apologized for the mic not working, and he laughed. He asked how they could save this awful edition of ImPaulsive. And that's when he hit his own music. And Rollins came, and Paul told the crowd to shut up and labeled them tone deaf while Rollins made his way into the arena. And Rollins just didn't say anything and attacked Logan Paul and dragged him to ringside. And this is the other pull apart that happened. Rollins then had Rollins pick up Paul, and they both tumble over the broadcast table. Rollins went for a dive off the top, by the way, and Rollins ended up diving onto a pair of security guards on the floor. And then that's where the second knockout happened. Logan Paul knocks out Rollins again with that one shot. And he said third time's a charm. And that's when he head backstage. But the security guards are taking a beating. Is no one saying anything about this? Is no one going to pay any fines? It's not part of the story, I guess. But people are legitimately on purpose beating up security guards left and right here. I don't know. But obviously, it's just local wrestling talent. First of all, I actually like this. Logan Paul held his own, man. Logan Paul does feel like he was kind of born to do this. I still don't like him. Doesn't mean I'm supposed to. I don't on a lot of levels, but you can't deny he's good in the ring. He's young. It's just a matter of what is his schedule? Is he going to ever dive into this full time? Is he going to continue with this part time? It seems like part time works best for him if he's got other endeavors, no doubt. But Logan Paul feel comfortable on the microphone. Didn't try to be somebody he's not. I believe he's about 80% of the person we perceive on TV. I really believe that, which is why it's working so well. And having the whole lucky shot thing continue is very interesting. It creates more heat. I actually think I agree with it. I think that was a good way to want you to see Seth get that stomp next week. And I think maybe we'll get it. Or we could get a third knockout. It's possible. This is going to be a hell of a match between Logan Paul and Seth Rollins. This is going to be fun. It's one of those understory or undercard matches that could shock us in a way that, we're looking at this going, well, the main event was, awesome with Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, all that. But we look at it and go, man, but you can make a case that Logan Paul and Seth Rollins were the match of the night or match of the pay-per-view. It's possible. Not saying it's going to happen, but you can't deny that it's at least in the discussion. All right. Then we get Dominic Mysterio with Damian Priest versus Johnny Gargano, who is with Dexter Lumis. And this ended with exactly what you'd also imagine of Dominic winning. Johnny Gargano and Mustafa Ali are part of the resident enhancement talent. The match was fine, but this was not about the match. It was just about somehow furthering the Dominic and Rey story. Dom, of course, did not disappoint and said that good-for-nothing father turning down his WrestleMania match request. He said he's not going to stop till he gets what he wants. And Dom said the entire Mysterio family will be at SmackDown on Friday. And he said it's the same family that blocked his number, kicked him out of the group chat, and wants nothing to do with him. He said that's okay because the Judgment Day group chat's better, and that he would approach his mother and ask her for permission to face Rey at WrestleMania. And Rey had her permission to remove his balls from her purse. So this, this was good. Okay. This maybe is a sign that they won't go with the whole Rey and Dom at the actual ceremony for the induction. You would think that's probably not going to happen, given that he said the entire family is going to be in Vegas on Friday for SmackDown. This is probably the breaking point then for Rey. I would imagine, and I've been waiting for this, the whole family to get involved. Once Rey starts attacking, maybe even threatening to hurt his mom or Rey's wife, that's kind of the breaking point, or threatening his family or Leo, whoever. That's, I kind of feel like when the man Rey Mysterio, not the father, is going to protect his family. And it makes sense. So this, to me, looks good. I would imagine when he said he's going to ask his wife for permission to remove his balls from her purse. I'd imagine that it's going to go something like bad acting from Rey's wife. And she last time I remember, she was really bad. Maybe she's improved, maybe, whatever. But hopefully she doesn't say a whole lot and just slaps Dom. And that's when Dominic threatens to, I don't know, break her neck with a chair, and that's when Rhea shows up, and that's when Rey attacks Dom. This is the breaking point, though. So let's get there. I'm ready. All right. Let's continue here. We got the Usos and Solo Sikoa talking backstage. Paul Heyman emerged from Roman Reigns' dressing room and asked if they were waiting for their tribal chief. Heyman said that Reigns wanted them to go to the jet for a feast. They had seafood, I guess mahi and shrimp and lobster. And then that's pretty much it. But then we got, Solo was told to stay back. But Graves then hyped a Edge and Balor Hell in a Cell match for WrestleMania. And this is where Edge did his pre-tape promos that have always been really good. Edge almost never cuts a bad promo. When he's not trying to be funny or meta or pop culturally relevant or responding to the fans' criticisms directly, Edge is usually very good. In this case, he was very good. And he had a couple candles in a dark room, and he spoke about how he would put someone through a wall if he was pushed, and that he's not going to apologize for what he'll do inside the Hell in a Cell structure, and said Balor has no idea what's in store for him. He said he was baptized inside the cell by the dead man himself, and Edge recalled Balor saying that hell couldn't handle his demon, and Edge laughed and said that there will be no fear for no evil because he is evil. Edge told Balor to leave Finn at home and bring the demon. I'd like to meet him, Edge. And that's when Edge stopped. That was I thought it was a solid promo from Edge. You know, it's a bit difficult to believe he's evil, though, given he's always talking about being a family man and putting over his wife like she could kick his ass. Like, it's a bit striking of a contrast. I mean, he makes you believe because he's such a good promo. But if you just take that away and strip it away and look just a little bit beneath the surface, you're like, dude, you're not evil in any way. What have you done that's evil? Okay, since you've come back in 2020 at the Rumble, what have you done that's evil exactly? Defend your family? I'm pretty sure that's what he's done the entire time. And then get revenge on a group that turned on him? So give me evil examples again, Edge. What is it? Oh, and by the way, Undertaker beat you in Hell in a Cell. So somebody explain this to me. I don't know. Anyway, let's go. We got the Rhea Ripley making her entrance, and Rhea said Flair considers herself a leader in the women's division, but leaders respect others. Ripley said she knew after their match that Flair didn't respect her. Ripley said she'll bring out all of Flair's deepest insecurities that she tries to mask as confidence. And she gets up and keeps going every time they go to war. And Ripley said she doesn't care about Flair's insecurities or whether she respects her, and said that she will become champion at WrestleMania and the biggest star in WWE. And that when Flair sees her holding her crown above her head, she'll know that all of her insecurities are true. And again, here we go. I don't need you to respect me, but you will fear me. Okay, you know, I'm not going to criticize anything here. It was probably Rhea's best promo regarding this program to date. Okay, she did a good job here, getting you excited. And what I like about her too, and I think she realizes this is best for her, is the pacing of her promo. She doesn't try to rush through it or speak too quickly because she's nervous or whatever. She takes her time with her words, kind of at this pace. And it sounds super slow, but I'd rather have someone speak like that than speak like this and I really can't understand what you're saying. A lot of people do that. You know, there's a lot of promos you can tell they're just trying to get through their stuff, push it through, because they don't want to forget anything, or they feel like they're maybe pressed for time. I enjoy Rhea Ripley's promo pace. It's very, very digestible. But Damage Control comes out, and Bayley said she was waiting for Ripley to say her name when she was talking about leaders, and said that if Ripley was looking for tips on how to beat Flair, she could have asked her, since she beat Flair in her very first WrestleMania. And Ripley said she doesn't need help from anyone, and that's when Bayley said Raw is their show, and it was their time for Damage Control to show what it means. And we get the match. Adam Pearce was backstage on a monitor and told the referee to go to the ring. I like this, first of all, with Adam Pearce, because you always wonder wait a minute, how can talent make their own matches? Well, I guess this is the fill-in for when we say, well, I thought Adam Pearce said he's the only one that can make things official, and yet wrestlers are just making their own matches all the time. If there's that moment that you see Pearce backstage looking at a monitor with a referee on standby going, okay, it's official, go, fine. Yeah, I like that. I actually really enjoyed that. They didn't have to put that in, but I thought that was a nice touch. But the match here with Rhea Ripley and Bayley was cold. There's something about this Damage Control group. One of the few negatives here on Raw. It is ice cold. It's boring. They need to dissect and rather disintegrate this Damage Control group. Unless there are big plans or things that I'm not thinking of that are a good idea or reasons why they should keep them together, I don't see any. I just think that Bayley needs to be on her own. Dakota Kai and Io Sky right now are probably hoping they don't break up, because right now they are clinging to Bayley for star power and relevance. I mean, let's be honest. But they might be able to have nice singles careers on their own. I just don't feel this. They don't have any momentum at all. You know, like Becky Lynch basically put them to sleep. And speaking of Becky Lynch, by the way, have you seen a WrestleMania in the last several years that Becky Lynch has been more hidden? Just an observation. I don't know if you view it good or bad, but just very noticeable. But the finish of this match was a Rhea Ripley defeating Bayley in 11 minutes. And Trish and Lita fought off Kai and Sky. I want to say Kai and Ty. While Lynch stood back and watched, and then Lynch taunted Bayley, who entered the ring and took a headbutt. Ripley hit her Riptide finish. That was the finish of the match. But after, Lynch pointed at Ripley from ringside, and Ripley returned the favor. It was weird. This is... I don't know what to make of this. I'm just going to chalk it up to they had no one to work with Bayley and no one to work with Rhea to make Rhea look good that night. And it's a big match on paper, but in execution, two heels working together isn't exactly a fun day at the office usually. Okay, let's continue. Backstage, we got Chad Gable searching for Otis and quickly found him getting a manicure covered in a white towel with cucumbers over his eyes, and Gable noted that he got them in the four-way tag team showcase match at WrestleMania. Gable also said he got a match with Ricochet and said he needed Otis since Ricochet would have Braun Strowman. Maxine Dupree showed up and said, you know, or rather she complimented Otis's nails. And he said he scheduled Otis with a premier photographer, and Gable asked about the Maximum Male Models having a match with Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. And Dupree said it was postponed to Masse overexposing his cheekbones. And Otis had to choose between the two and opted for Gable. Okay. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, Otis is back to being just kind of the butt of the joke. And I don't think it's a good thing. But Ricochet versus Chad Gable did happen. Ricochet did beat Chad Gable in 10 minutes, roughly, give or take. And Ricochet avoided a suplex and put Gable down before hitting him with a shooting star press. That's how it was. That was the finish. So whatever you make of that, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's kind of the undercard for sure here. Okay, we did get then Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair versus Asuka and Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. So Belair ended up winning. Belair and Asuka ended up winning against Chelsea Green and Piper Niven in about 7 minutes. An okay match. It was highlighted by the KOD on Piper Niven, which is always fun to watch. And every time she does it, they play it off like it's her first time, but it's still fun. It shows you the strength and athleticism of Bianca Belair, which is pretty crazy. It'd be nice if Piper Niven could actually get a voice once in a while. But Chelsea Green, with this character, the annoying, like, can I see a manager character? Some people are calling it the Karen character. It's fine. I don't hate it. Right now she hasn't gotten any victories, so that's the thing. But I think that this is something for her to do and could catch on in time. But after the match is really what was the news story here, and that was Asuka hitting Belair from behind. And when Belair stood up, Asuka put her down with a spin kick, and Graves called it a declaration of war. Belair set up and ate a flying knee from Asuka, who then danced around. Still, I don't care about this match. I hate to say that. Only because I shouldn't say I don't care. That's a bit much. I'm underwhelmed by the build for this match. Somebody, and people keep asking me this on the mailbag, somebody's got to do something rash at WrestleMania. What does that mean? Most likely, for me, a heel turn by Bianca Belair to retain. That's how I would book this. I mean, we're not even getting promos from Bianca. I mean, Lord knows that we aren't going to hear anything from Asuka unless the promo consists of nobody is ready for Asuka. Right? I mean, that's kind of the extent of her ability to communicate. English-speaking audience, but Bianca, what does it mean to face Asuka? Can we get some kind of substance here? The only thing we know is, Asuka is kind of turning heel, but at the same time, she cut her hair, so there's that. That's all we know. We need more. All right. We then did get Roman Reigns coming in and said that, to acknowledge him, and then Cody Rhodes came out quickly, and we got Roman Reigns looking annoyed. Rhodes then slapped hands with the fans and came to the ring, and he said that he wants to talk to Reigns because he's already heard him talk about staying out of the Bloodline's business, and Cody asked Roman to define what he meant by him being a problem. Heyman stepped forward, and Cody said, let's get this straight. You're not the problem. Or rather, he told Heyman he's not talking to him. And Roman said, you're not the problem. What you represent. Now that's the problem. Reigns said Cody is, quote, what we used to be. And Roman said Cody claims he's going to do all these things, but his track record shows he won't do it. And said that Cody didn't want to do the Stardust thing, so he ran away. Roman said Cody started his own promotion and he couldn't get over, and then he ran away. And then said Cody came to WWE over, and then his pec popped. And Reigns said that Cody's real moment will be on April 3rd when he has to wake up and look in the mirror. And said, I want you to make a choice that your dad could be proud of. Otherwise, you're just going to do what you always do and run like a little bee. And so pretty strong words from Roman there. All of it true. Cody said that what Reigns said was true. And that the business broke his heart and he ran away. He said that in doing so, he made it so that 100% of every locker room could make more money. So he wasn't worried about it. And Cody recalled Reigns calling him a pro wrestler. Cody said he tried. He said he wanted to be a superstar since he was 20 years old. And maybe the truth is that he is just a runaway violent guy, that a wrestler that likes the taste of his blood. And Cody said that no one needs to bring his father in it up again or I'll vomit. So basically saying, stop talking about my dad. We've been through this. And I don't know, maybe he's listening to this show. Unlikely. But, I'd say that that was one of the major complaints I've had about the whole narrative for Cody rolling into WrestleMania here is, why are we talking about his dad? His dad's not having the match. Okay. Cody is. Let's get to Cody here. So that's exactly what I've been talking about. All right, but Cody brought up April 3rd and what it will mean to Reigns. And Cody said Reigns has to wake up and remember what it's like to lose. And that if he loses those belts, for one thing, Jay would leave Roman, which means Jimmy would leave. And then said that Solo was staring at him all night and he thinks Cody said Sikoa thinks he's ready, but he's not. And that eventually Solo would leave him too, and that Heyman would become an advocate again, and Reigns would be left without a family, making him a chief without a tribe. It's good stuff. Really good stuff. There's no issue here with any of that. Reigns dropped the mic and left the ring, and that's when Sikoa stood behind and went face to face with Rhodes. And Sikoa went for the Samoan spike, but Cody blocked it with a kick. And then Reigns pulled Sikoa back to end the show. And this was strong. I have to say that they continue while Reigns and Rhodes have not put a single finger on one another yet. That's fine with me. You don't have to get everyone to a brawling point before WrestleMania. It's common, but it's not necessary. And I think what they're doing with Cody and Roman right now is great. It is. Do I still want to see Cody win? No. But for those that are Cody fans, this is good stuff. Cody's confident. He looks the part, as he says. He's really good on the mic. And while there's a strong argument to be made for Cody winning, again, I think there's an even stronger one for Roman to retain. I know that we all are tired of Roman being champion, but most of us are. There's stronger evidence for Roman to keep the belts from a money perspective from WWE, from a ratings perspective for WWE, and really from flat out a storyline perspective. You know, you strip away even the money part of it, which is really strong. Are they really looking at this for Cody to win? Wait, Cody's the guy? I don't know. Just some thoughts, food for thought there. But, all right, that was the Monday Night Raw review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I did watch SmackDown. I'll let our SmackDown team go through that step by step and play by play, and they did a great job. Always do on the SmackDown review. So if you want more of a detailed opinion on SmackDown, you can check that out. Or go ad-free here on our WWE podcast by patreon.com/WWE podcast, WWEpodcast.com, or Apple Podcasts. Go ad-free on our Apple Podcast feed. All right, that's going to do it for me, guys. It's good to be back in the saddle, ready for WrestleMania. Tomorrow's the mailbag, and then we're off to the races. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Give us a 5-star rating if you can, and take care.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.